we got to this house. I got to this house, and then the lady, like, she was talking to me, and she was Hispanic, and then she wanted the books, but then she didn't want, like, she didn't have the money. Her husband had them, and she was like, and anyways, I offered prayer, and she was like, oh, like, yes. She's like, I need prayer, and she was like, I have a daughter who's 11 years old, and she was in school passing notes to her friend, telling her friend she wanted to kill herself. And I was like, what the heck? Like, she's so little. And then the friend was like, but don't do that, because then you're gonna make me cry. And then the daughter was like, well, it's because my mom and my dad fight all the time. And so then, and so her mom, like, was super, like, surprised by that, and she's like, she's right, like, me and my husband fight in front of my daughter all the time, and she's like, he wants to keep me in a prison, like, he won't let me go to Zumba, and he goes to the gym, but he just won't, like, let me out, he just doesn't trust me, all this stuff. And she was, like, literally telling me all her life, like, in how she feels so trapped in her home, and, like, there's no hope and nothing, and I wanted to give her peace above the storm, and I was going to, like, after the prayer, but then, like, I was like, okay, let's just pray. And so right when we were about to pray, this car pulls up, and she's like, oh, there he is. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, wait, so can I pray for you? She got super, like, scared, and she was like, I don't talk to him, we don't talk. Like, when you leave, watch, she's gonna ask me, like, who's that girl, or things like that. She just looked, like, so, like, different, like she didn't know me. And she had just shared all her life with me. So she was just, like, all scared. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, can I pray with you? And then she was like, no, let's not do that. And I was like, okay. And she's like, he's here. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna talk to him. And then she was like, okay. And so I was like, okay. And so then I went down, and it was a car. And you know how, like, sometimes you, like, in Hispanics, like, you carpool, like, to go to work, then anyways. There was two guys in the car. I don't know which one was her husband. And then, like, so I thought, like, because the guy that was closest to me, he opened the door in the passenger seat, like, he was going to get off. And I was like, oh, this is her husband. Like, this other guy's probably dropping her husband off, you know, at the house. And then, so, like, I was, like, targeting him. But I was speaking to both of them, and I presented, and I did peace and everything. And I did the kids one, because I wanted the guy to get peace, and the kids one. And then, I know they didn't want anything. I was like, okay, let me pray. So I prayed for them, like, my normal prayer about family and, like, the man being the head of the house and blah, blah, blah. And I was just praying. And then after the prayer, I was like, okay, thank you. And then the other guy, the one in the driver's seat, he was like, oh, like, I want to, how much did you say they were? You said you take card. And I was like, yeah, I do. And he's like, okay, I want fast and the one for kids. And I was like, and I was like, okay. And I was like looking at the other guy, the passenger guy. I was like, okay, here you go. Like trying to, like, yeah, like, you know, you could help me too. Like, which was her husband. And then, like, so the guy was, like, over there, was, like, interested in whatever. And I was like, okay, like, this is not the person that I want to be interested. And then, like, but I was like, cool. And then, anyways, he swiped it, anything. They both got down off the car. And then the lady's little baby girl, she has another girl, she came out. And then the guy in the passenger seat, he was like, oh, hi, baby, like, you know. And so then I was like, oh, like, that's your daughter, like, don't you want something for her, you know? And then, like, I was like, oh, how old is she? While the other guy was, like, signing the card and whatever. And then he was like, oh, I'm 23. And I was like, what? And then I was like, no, the baby. He's like, oh, I don't know. And then he asked the guy with the card. And he was like, how old is she? She's like, oh, she's this and that. And I was like, oh, you're the dad. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I just had, like, talked to, like, I knew what was going on in his house. And, like, even if I hadn't known anything, and I would have just sold the book to him, like, I wouldn't have known what I was giving in his hands. Like, you know, like, peace, freedom from worry, and for his children as well, like, something for his daughter that wants to kill herself, like, who's so young. Like, I was just so happy to be able to know what was behind the person I was selling the books to, because a lot of times we don't know, you know? And so it was just so cool to be like, wow, like, he really needs this. And then I started thinking, like, man, like, everybody else that I speak to, like, imagine they have a story similar to that, or like things like that. There's a reason why they get the book. Like today, I was at Target, and then it was going, and then this guy, I don't know, everything was lining up. Like, this guy wanted a book that I didn't have, and Ivan just happened to be there at the right time, and he got 2 books, and then, anyways, like, everything was just, like, lining up so well. And I got to, like, Ivan was far away, like, he couldn't bring me anything. I literally had no more English books. I had 3 English books left: Pause for Peace, and Peace Above the Storm, and The Great Controversy, 2 GCs. And then everything else was Spanish. And then, like, I talked to this lady, I was sharing with her, I was like, oh, I need to get rid of my English books. And then so I sold her 2 books, and then I prayed with her, and she's like, wow, thank you so much, I really needed that. And then I was like, oh, awesome, whatever. Then I left, and then I was writing down the books that I had left her, and I was like, dang, which one did I leave her? I forgot. I was like, I have to remember, like, I only had 3, and I could not remember, so I had to go back to her car and, like, ask her. But when I got there, she was crying, and she was, like, wiping out, like, she was, like, in tears, and I felt so bad, and I was like, oh, snap. And I was like, hi, and so then I just asked her, and she looked, like, embarrassed, or I don't know, and it was Pause for Peace and Peace of the Storm or something. Anyways, I marked them down, and then I just had 2 GCs left, and then, like, all Spanish books. And so, like, I was like, this is, like, the widest neighborhood ever. Like, how am I gonna get, like, Spanish books out? So I was like, oh, well, like, I just had Spanish set and my GC, and so that I would walk and I would present, and then the person, like, I was like, wait, you speak English? You speak Spanish? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. So I would present in Spanish, and they would get a Spanish one.